G'day, Starlo here, and welcome to this week's Tuesday Yak Chat, coming to you from my kayak, as they so often do, and brought to you by CM Partners Accounting, who I'll tell you a little bit more about later on. This is actually going to be the last in this current series of Yak Chats. I'm going to take a break for a few weeks, maybe a month or two. I've got some other activities to pursue, some other projects on the go. So I need to take a break from the Yak Chats. I hope you've really enjoyed this series. We've covered an interesting range of topics, that's for sure. And today I want to talk to you about something I get asked about a lot in fishing, and that's the influence of moon phases, the tides, solunar periods, bite times, all of those kind of things, the impacts that they have on our fishing and how we can hopefully improve our results by using those things. But the very first observation that I'd make in regards to this particular subject area is that there are very few hard and fast rules, and that fish constantly break the rules. Novice anglers in particular seem to want a set of ironclad rules. If I'm going to target such and such a species, I go on this phase of the moon, this state of the tide, this time of day, and I'll catch them. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, but it doesn't really work that way. Fish break the rules all the time. I've caught fish when it's supposed to have been the worst possible conditions for it, and I've gone out when all the planets have aligned and missed out completely. And that is fishing. They're fickle critters and they don't follow our rule books, but we can do certain things and we can observe cycles in nature that will help us to have less unsuccessful days, let's put it that way. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different today in the kayak. I'm actually going to go bait fishing. I don't bait fish much out of the kayak. I've just brought a light to medium spin rod, a few pilchards. I'm going to head out here onto my local estuary. It's a grey, cool winter's day. I hope it doesn't rain. There's a fair bit of cloud around. I didn't actually bring my spray jacket because there's not really any rain on the forecast, but I don't know. It looks like it could rain to me. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to try and sneak across these flats, take a bit of a shortcut, because this is normally very, very shallow out here, but we're right on the top of the tide. And of course, tide's one of the things I'm going to talk to you about today. It's interesting though, we're on the top of the tide, but in the ocean, just half a kilometre out that way, the tide actually turned a couple of hours ago and started to drop. But here in the estuary, it's just sitting still at the moment, right up on the top of the tide. It won't start to run out hard for probably another hour or so at least. You get these tidal lags, and these are things you need to be aware of, and that you really only learn through observation in the areas where you fish. Make notes of stuff like that. It's not always available on the tide charts, and it varies. It depends on the wind directions and the barometric pressure and things like... Whoa! That was an amazing flock of terns just went over. I thought there was a jet going over me. That was awesome. What was I talking about? Tidal lags and things like that. There's so many influences on all of that, and you really need to rely on your own observation. It might tell you in the charts that the tide's been running out for an hour, and you look at it and it's still running in. Those are the sort of things that only come with experience and with getting to know your spot. These terns are coming back. There are so many of them. It's incredible. I'll try and get the camera up there so you can have a look. And apologies to those podcast fans who are listening to this and missing all the visuals. Don't forget, you can go to my Starlo Gets Real channel and watch all of these. All right, I'm going to turn the cameras off, push across these flats and get out to where I'm going to soak my bait. And then I'll talk to you a little bit more about those moon phases and bite periods and things like that. I'll just tell you, though, that today is actually the day of the new moon. You get a new moon every 28 days or so, full moon every 28 days or so. We're on the new moon today, and that's supposed to be a really good time for fishing. I'll talk to you a bit more about that in just a minute. All right, I've got some peddling to do. Well, I'm getting up towards where I wanted to fish, and this is pretty exciting. There's a school of surface fish here. I'm rigged up for bait fishing. I do have a couple of lures in my tackle box. I might have to pull one out and put it on, because have a look at this. They're either salmon or tailor. feeding here. They're chasing bait fish on the surface. That is very exciting to see. Just beside this buoy here in front of me on the right hand side. The tide has just started to trickle out. It's a good time. This semi-slack water can be a good time for all kinds of things, and it's certainly good for drifting in the kayak because I won't go too fast and there's very little wind at the moment. Look at these fish. And this is the thing about a kayak. You would never get that close to surface feeding fish in a boat. I'm going to see if I can get right into the middle of them. Look at that. Wow. I wonder if they'd take a piece of pilchard so that I don't have to re-rig. Grab my rod. I'm being very, very quiet. Trying not to bump anything on the bottom of the kayak because I'm right in the middle of this school. Even that little bump of the rod butt onto the bottom of the kayak might have been enough to put them off. We'll see. I'm just going to take a tail portion of one of my pillies. These are just shop bought pilchards. Oh, listen to them. Listen to the fish. All right. Now I've got a big sinker on here, which is probably not ideal. Oh, let's see what happens. I reckon that sunk straight through them because I've got the sinker on. I'll grab my scissors in a minute and take it off if I need to. But what I might do is just plonk this out there on the bottom because underneath this school of fish could be a really good spot for all sorts of things. I don't have sounders or anything in my kayak, as I've told you before, but I fish this area a fair bit in my boat, so I know I'm currently in about 5 metres of water on the top of the tide like this, and I can measure the depth with my baited rig. Alright, that should be on the bottom by now. Let's see if anything wants to play. So I mentioned before about the tides and the moon. The moon is the major dominant force on our tides. The sun has an effect too. Of course, the sun is massively larger than the moon, but the moon is that much closer to us that its gravitational force is the major influence on our tides. And you can look up how all of that works. I'm not going to try and explain the physics to you now. Oh, spoiler alert. The world is a sphere. It's not flat. Anyway, the tides travel round as a bulge and a dip in the oceans, and they're influenced by the landforms and everything else, and that's why tides vary so much from one area of the country to another and why they're so different in size. Up in Darwin and Broome you can have, there was a bite. You can have 7 or 8 metres of difference between high and low water on the what's called the spring tides around the full and the new moon. And in other parts of the country, you might only get a metre or so of movement. And you get weird things happen, like the dodge tides that they get in the Gulfs in South Australia, where there's virtually no movement for a whole 24-hour period. I'm getting bites here. Oh, that wasn't a bad bite, actually. I'm just going to let him run with it a little bit and then close the bail arm. And I missed him. And of course, tides are really important when we're chasing saltwater fish in open systems. Wow, that got chewed up a little bit. Will I put that same piece back out or put a new one on? I'd say there's a brim or something like that. I'll just leave that on there and plonk it back out again because there's a couple of halfway decent bites amongst those. When it comes to tides, there's a saying that's very popular in the top end of Australia, up in tropical waters: no run, no fun. And it's pretty good and pretty apt. When there's no movement on the really small tides or on the slack water, the fishing can be super tough. Fish like a bit of tidal movement to bring food to them. Oh, I'm getting a bite again. This is, that's a better bite. Come on. I don't think it's a real big fish. I mentioned before that today is the day of the new moon. That's when there's virtually no moon. You can't see anything. There's just a little sliver of the new moon. And then it builds and builds and builds. That's called a waxing moon, and it builds right up until you've got a full moon, and then it starts to disappear again, and that's a waning moon, and my bait is completely gone. Look at that. Sorry, I'm going to be constantly interrupted by fish, I think, doing this. I'll get another bait on here, get it out, and then get back to you. Yeah, so it's around a 28 to 29 day cycle between one new moon and the next new moon that goes through the full moon phase and then back down to the new moon. And people say, well, what's the best moon phase to fish on? It's the $1 million question. I must say over the years I've done better in the week leading up to the new moon and the week leading up to the full moon than I have in the weeks after. But again, there are so many exceptions. I'll just make contact with that bait. There's very little movement up here at the moment. And that brings me back to that no run, no fun. I mean, slack water can be a really good time to catch certain fish. Things like mulloway become, I find, quite active on the slack water. The bait lifts up from the bottom, there's fish swimming around, everything's kind of repositioning itself for the next tide, and predators like mulloway can take advantage of that on occasion. And I'm going to underscore just about everything I talk to you today by saying on occasion, and there are exceptions, and there are so many exceptions to these things that I'm talking about. One of the interesting things, though, is what's called the solunar tables. You might hear this also referred to as the Maori fishing calendar, because the Maori really followed this in their hunting and their fishing. And it's all about the position of the moon, and to a lesser extent the sun, but mostly the moon in the sky. And it's about moon rise, moon set, so when it comes up over the horizon and when it goes down below the horizon. Those are called the minor periods. And moon directly overhead and moon directly underfoot. Those are called the major periods. Interestingly, we've got a major period coming up in about 3/4 of an hour, so it'll be interesting to see if the fish do arc up. Now, how much credence do I place in the solunar tables? Well, I'll admit to you that for many, many years I was a little bit cynical about it, but when I started to actually study my results and compare it to the solunar tables, I think there is definitely something going on there, more so in environments that don't have many other dynamic forces acting on them. So freshwater lakes, I-coals, intermittently closed and open lakes and lagoons along the coast that don't have tidal influence. In those bodies of water, I think the solunar tables can be quite important. But also I've seen things happen, bite periods suddenly start out on the snapper grounds, 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. You've had a pretty quiet morning and suddenly the fish come on the bite, and they bite for about 45 minutes or an hour. If you have a look later at the solunar tables and the moon charts, it's often been a moon rise, a moon set, a moon directly overhead or a moon directly underfoot that's kicked off those bite periods. So they are worth taking note of. And if I had my time over again as an angler, one thing I would definitely have done is kept a decent diary or logbook of my results. I think that can help you find so many patterns. And successful fishing is a lot about patterns. It's about identifying the successful patterns and attempting to repeat them, and also identifying the less successful patterns and trying to cut them out of your fishing. Doing those things can make a lot of difference to your results. It's a bit late for me now at 68 to start keeping a diary. I mean, I use my photos and my video, which have got time codes and everything on them, as a bit of a diary or a logbook. But wow, I reckon if I had 60 years of data to look back over, it'd reveal some really interesting stuff. So if you're just getting started in your fishing career, that is one thing I would definitely say to you. Keep a logbook. Oh wow, a fish just busted on the surface about 2 kayak lengths from me. I don't know how long I'm going to stick with this bait. I might put a lure on and chase these surface fish. That first lot that I saw went down. A couple of boats came through and it put those surface feeding fish down, which is a bit of a shame. But if they come back up again, or if I see any more buffs like that on the surface, I might put this little metal lure that I've got here on and have a couple of chucks. Yeah, so a diary or a logbook can be really handy. It shows you the seasonal cycles, the sort of things you'd need to record in it. are the weather conditions on the day. Obviously the date is the first thing you put in there, and the time that you fished and what you caught. But the weather conditions on the day, what the tide was doing, make a note of those solunar periods, when were the majors and minors, and then once you've got a bit of data in there, you'll be able to look back over it and start to see those all important patterns. Then you can fish smarter rather than harder. If something worked on a particular day last year or 5 years ago and you come up to that same time of the year and you've got similar conditions, it's a reasonable assumption that the same approach will work again and you can go out and repeat it. It's got a little nibble in. I can just feel my bait bouncing along the bottom. We're starting to... Oh, that wasn't a bad bite. Starting to run out now, the tide. Hey, speaking of time of year, I mentioned this in an earlier episode, it's just about tax time, and not a time of the year that I particularly look forward to, but now that I've got a good accountancy firm in the form of CM Partners, I'm not as scared of tax time as I used to be, because I know that they're going to work with me to make sure I don't pay more tax than I need to, but also without me falling foul of the tax office. If you haven't got an accountancy firm, or you've got one that you don't really feel all that confident about, check out CM Partners Accounting. If you use my link in the description down below, they'll give you a completely free consultation. That's more than $400 worth of value. They'll give it to you for free, no strings attached. Tell them Starlo sent you. All right, I need to concentrate. I'm getting bites here. What I'm going to do, I've been using heads and tails of pilchards. What I might do is actually grab my knife and knock a fillet off one of these pilchards and just put that down. We'll find out what these things are. I've got a funny feeling they might be small brim or little snapper, but it'd just be interesting to find out. I reckon they've got most of that bait now. No, there's still bait on there. All right, I'm going to try a smaller bait. They didn't leave much of the head. Throw all these bits in the water for burley. That's still sinking almost straight down. Just starting to run that way now with the run out tide. Don't mind these overcast conditions though. Alright, get another bait on and get it in there. Not that the cloud cover held, the sun soon broke through. Putting my sunnies on helps me watch the belly of line. It's cutting that glare off the water. Town slowly starting to come to life, bit of traffic, few people at the cafe over here. Now the sun's come out, people are out enjoying the day. Ooh, there was a bite. Glad I've got my sunnies on now. That's pretty bright. Oh, that's the best bite I've had all day. Come on, take it properly. Oh, that was a flathead, I reckon. They're just not taking it well. Yeah, oh, got him this time. Oh. Finally pinned one. And as I suspected, it's a little snapper. I think there might be a load of those in here at the moment. They're such aggressive little fish too. So good to see. These estuaries are a real nursery zone. Oh well, it's a start. And I followed it up with another one. Oh yeah, that's a better fish. Slightly, maybe. Oh, what have we got now? Ooh, it's a tailer. It's probably going to bite me off. Little tailer. He's not going to bite me off because he's just hooked in the lip. Well and truly undersized. They've got to be 30 centimetres, so you can go back. Bit of a northerly wind has kicked in now. It's not as pleasant as it was 20 minutes ago. I probably won't give it too much longer. I'll head home and have some brunch, I think. The message that I want to leave you with about these cycles of fishing, about the moon phases, the tides, the solunar tables, is be a little bit suspicious of anyone who tells you there are hard and fast rules when it comes to fishing. As I keep saying, fish break the rules all the time. Patterns, yes, there are definitely patterns, and there are more productive and less productive patterns, and that's what you need to be identifying in the areas where you fish and on the species that you target. Think more about that, about identifying productive patterns, than listening to anyone who claims that there are hard and fast rules about the moon phase or the tide or the part of the solunar cycle that you should be fishing on. And you'll do a lot better, in my opinion. And keep a logbook. Seriously, I wish I had. All right, I'm going to have a couple more drops and then I'm going to head in. It's been a very pleasant way to spend an hour. I've enjoyed chatting with you. Oh, and I almost forgot to tell you, in my last Tuesday chat, I ran a little deliberate mistake competition. Now, the mistake I made, of course, was to put my rod down at such an angle that the reel ended up in the sand on the beach. I wound the rig almost up to the tip, so I had to put the rod down, walk to the tip to bait up. A lot of people make that mistake, and a lot of you picked it up. But there can only be one winner, and it was David Gross from South Australia, who's on YouTube as Stringbean1010. So congratulations, David. A nice little package of beach fishing rigging gear from my son Tom's StarloTackle.com shop has winged its way out to you. Hopefully you've already got it, and hopefully you catch a few fish using it. People seem to really like that deliberate mistake competition, so next series of these Tuesday chats that I do, which could be in a few weeks or it might be in a month or two, I'll do some more of those. Until next time, this is Starlo wishing you tight lines, and don't forget to watch my regular episodes that drop every Saturday morning, as well as Monday Memories, which, surprisingly enough, are on Mondays. Ooh, that's a bite.